All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another one of my interviews here on Drip Talk with Blake Roberts. Today, I have a very special guest with me. He is a current pro wrestler, motivational speaker, and fitness coach. He has worked and wrestled for the companies WCW, WWF, WWE, OVW, and WrestleForce. He's also tried out for NFL from 2003 to 2004, and also CFL. He was one half of the Ravens Flock faction, obviously run by Raven. He's no other than Sick Boy Scott Vick, so we'll get him on in here and then we'll start on with the interview. Hello.
Hey, man.
How you doing?
Good. You?
I'm good. Thank you for taking your time out to do this.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything you'd like to say?
As far as
like anything that you want to introduce yourself other from what I said or anything?
No, you're good.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question I'll ask you is, when did you start wrestling? What made you want to get into that profession?
Always had an interest, from a kid standpoint. I mean, born in Charlotte, and so NWA was huge. Obviously, Crockett Promotions was based out of Charlotte. It was fascinating to me, but I was a big sports guy, like in terms of baseball, football, basketball, those types, and I was always wanted to be baseball, football, and then was like I want to play in the NFL, and that was my dream. I never thought much about wrestling other than it was fascinating to me. Larger than life guys, and watching it, and as a kid, that was pretty much it. I was just like, as everybody's got dreams and aspirations. And I want to say probably, I mean, I'm kind of jumping a bit here, but it wasn't until like college where I really started thinking about doing the wrestling in terms of like, this is what I want to do.
Right, of course. And I heard somebody like a WCW talent scouted you out. Is that true? Like, how did that come about?
Yeah, that was in high school. I was actually at a show in Savannah, Georgia, with a former WCW, WWF guy, Sean O'Hare. We went to the same high school together. We were friends, and he went to the show with me in Savannah. He wasn't really he had just kind of started getting into mixed martial arts but never like a real fan of wrestling. I was, and it was like my sophomore year in high school, and we went to a house show, and the ring announcer at the time, Gary Michael Capetta, saw us because we were ringside, and Sean was a couple years older than I was, so he was tall and leaner. He was like 6'5", 6'4". And I was like 6'3", I think, at the time. I was a sophomore in high school. I was probably 210 pounds or something like that. Gary Michael Capetta saw us and talked to us and said, "Hey, I'm a talent scout as well as a ring announcer. You guys want to meet me at the hotel tomorrow? This is where I'm staying." And Sean wanted nothing to do with it. I did. So I met with him, and he was like, "Hey, he would love to have you come up to Atlanta, like after high school, you graduate." And I said, "Well, that's awesome, but at this point I was a 1,000,000% focused on football." And I was like, "Well, this is what I want to do right now." And he just gave me his card and said, "Hey, if you ever change your mind, give me a call." And that was really the first like point of contact of going there with wrestling in terms of maybe pursuing. Although I was always like, well, it's a good kind of backup. I've always been interested in it, but
Yeah, most definitely. And who was like some of your favorite wrestlers growing up watching it?
I mean, God, man, you go back and it's like, I mean, right off the bat, I'm pretty eclectic with it, honestly, on people that I like watching. I mean, I was enamored with all the big guys like your Road Warriors,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's without saying. I mean, those guys weren't the most technical guys working and things like that. But they worked phenomenally within their set of skills, and just their look was amazing. But I loved all being in Mid Atlantic. Obviously, Ric Flair. I mean, that was the first. Love Flair. Just the charisma that he had, and of course, the work. But I really got into like Tully and Arn Anderson, Ronnie Garvin, Rick Rude, even going back to the early NWA.
Yeah.
With Rude. I was a big Rude fan. Piper would when his stint there with NWA, and then of course what he went on to do in WWF. But the Dusty Rhodes, I mean Nikita Koloffs, Barbarians for the size and the look. It was really weird because it was like it was a culmination of things for me. Perfect. Like Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig was another one. Like to me, like Rick Rude was one of the best heels ever in the business.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's like you got your big man where it's like I was a big Bruiser Brody fan.
Oh yeah.
It's going back a bit. He never, unfortunately, never got the opportunity. Like for me when I'm in that draw that time frame age, never in WWF or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because I always wanted to see like Bruiser and Hulk,
Oh yeah, that would have been one heck of a match to see.
Yeah, and so I was always, I was always that NWA guy. There were some WWF guys, especially like that, the Rock and Wrestling WWF when they started doing that, with MTV and there were aspects of it like the Paul Orndorffs and obviously Hogan. It had its appeal, but my main draw was to that more not so gimmicky. WWF started getting really gimmicky.
Oh yeah, yeah, I could see that. Yeah,
I mean, you still had your few guys in there. Like I was like, like I mentioned before, like Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig. I was never a Ultimate Warrior fan. He looked phenomenal, but I always thought his interviews and his promos were just. I just didn't. I laughed honestly at it.
Right.
It wasn't believable to me. I like I said, grew up watching Slayer. Like I believed all that, and even after I got in the business and knew what the business was about, I can still go back and watch like, these '80s NWA and these promos. And I still am like, oh man, he's really hot. Like he's like, this is for real.
Yeah.
Even at like 52 years old, I'm like still going, oh man, this is like awesome. Like I'm believing this, even though I know everything about it now. And that to me, that was the difference. And of course, as WWF started getting up into the later 80s and 90s, it's just started getting too gimmicky for me with all the over the top characters. I wanted the Hands of Stone, Ronnie Garvin. It was just more realistic, and I could relate to them better as like just Dusty Rhodes, just the plumber's son of a plumber, and the All American guy, and Magnum TA, and I mean I could go on and on. There's probably a lot that I'm forgetting that were influential for me, but that was kind of my take, and that was my draw into to professional wrestling.
Sweet. And do you still watch the product today? Do you still watch it?
It's hard, honestly. It's so different, and I know probably all generation, aspects of that come up with guys, but I don't know. There's certain guys I can definitely watch today. Obviously, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton's, those guys to me are just, yeah, it's still believable, and it's gone. A lot of the business, you get a lot of guys standing there for like, or position themselves to jump off the rope or to jump off the cage, and it's like they're standing there waiting for a guy forever, and it's like, to me, it's like, it's just hard to watch. Depends on who's wrestling.
Yeah.
So, I'll pop in and see things, as they go, and depends on who's working. But it's so hard. Just to me, it's just hard to watch because so much of it seems so choreographed now.
Yeah, way different than back in the day. I could definitely say that for sure. Mm-hmm. Who are some of like the guys who helped you get into the business, such as like trainers?
The biggest influence for me was Chris Kanyon, Diamond Dallas Page.
Mm-hmm.
I'd started at the power plant and just started training there, and I just really picked it up really quickly. And Chris Kanyon saw me and came up and introduced himself and was like, "Hey, you need to come down, and I want you to come work with us." And it was Chris Kanyon, Brian Clark Rath,
Mm-hmm.
Ray Lloyd Glacier, Billy Kidman. That was the core at the time, and it was really Kanyon that kind of took me under his wing. And so I transitioned. I'd been training with Mike Winter, Pez Wiley, and Dwayne Bruce Sarge at the power plant. And Chris, like I said, just really accelerated the whole thing and took me in, and that's where everything really started to roll from there. And but all those guys had brought aspects to the training for me.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Who would you say has been the stiffest wrestler you've gotten in the ring within your career?
Man, there could be a couple categories for stiff.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like snug work. I like tight. I like to feel it. I don't want somebody to hurt me, but lay it in where it's going to be solid. And so when I say stiff, I don't want to be like, oh, it's he was not really a worker. He was just stiff. I didn't really experience anybody like that. I had worked Benoit a lot, and I loved working with Chris. He was tight and solid. You felt everything, but it was never in a bad way. And then to give it kind of a different comparison, McMichael Mongo could be a little stiff just because he was so green and he was so strong, and sometimes it's one of those guys that really didn't know their own strength at times. So and again, it's the business. No one tries to be, sometimes, you want to be a little intentionally stiff if somebody doing something to you, and you need to kind of make a point. But for the most part, no one intentionally tries to really, at least through my experience, and would hope not. No one wants to really tater anybody or lay one in too stiff on someone in a bad spot. So, I don't know. That stiff thing is kind of like, to me, it's two categories in there. It's like you get the Benoits, and he was a tight worker. Perry Saturn was a tight worker. We worked a few times after the flock split up, and I like working with Perry, being tight like that because you can feel it. It's easier to sell. It's easier to work. you know.
Definitely. And also about Steve Mongo, he also came from football. He didn't really have a wrestling background, so he probably just put in all his strength from football, you know.
Yeah, and that's a hard transition. I mean, it was, you know, for a lot of guys that come in, it's hard to go from that sport into professional wrestling because in football, obviously, it's, you know, you're putting everything you can into it, and then you get into wrestling, it's like, well, you're supposed to make it look like you're putting everything into it.
Yeah.
And for a lot of guys, it can be, you know, it can be pretty tough.
For sure.
But he was a good guy, and I worked him a lot, and we had good matches. I tried to keep it as simple as possible, and just, you know, I like, you know, saw how he worked, knew his matches, and you know, it was so weird because, you know, he actually had more ring time than I did as far as matches and being in the Four Horsemen and things. But I always laid out the matches for us and set them up, and I just kind of had a good feel of what he could do, what he couldn't do, and I'm like not going to try anything, you know, that I felt was kind of stretching his abilities.
Right.
So it was almost like, hey, just you know, I hate to say this, not dummy it down, but just you know, I'm going to work and focus on what he does well, and put that into a match.
Yeah, for sure. What would you consider to be a weakness and then a strength of yours in the wrestling business?
Oh man. Right off the top, weakness, I would say just being green and naive.
Mm.
Because you know, when I started the flock, I was 24, 25 years old. So, you know, I got thrust into it really quick. I didn't have a lot of matches under my belt. I hadn't worked anywhere. I just worked at the power plant and worked some matches there. I'd worked maybe a couple of independent shows prior to getting into the flock. So it was like a trial by fire kind of thing. And, you know, I think that was a big weakness, just not knowing the business well enough in terms of certain protocol, maybe in, you know, just backstage protocol, even to a certain degree, even in ring, as far as just, you know, hey, you have to sell yourself a certain way. You know, like I always like got in there and was like, it didn't matter who I was in there with. I just was like, I want to have like to me, it was like, okay, I'm going back being a kid now. I want to have a fun match. I want to sell like Terry Funk. I want to work like Rick Rude. I want to do goofy athletic spots like Kurt Hennig. And I tried to mesh all this together sometimes, as opposed to really, I think, honing down and going, okay, who's Sick Boy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was kind of in this tweener thing where I was like, you know, I was big enough to do power moves, but I could also do high flying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and mixing all that together, but at the same time going, hey, I need to protect my character, my gimmick a little bit. Maybe not give guys so much. Be a little more dominant, be a little stronger. I think that's just kind of being green in the business.
Yeah,
And not knowing. So I think that's the weakness. The strength part would be that ability to be that tweener guy that was, you know, 250 pounds that could do, you know, power moves, but also, you know, I could do flips. I did all springboards. I could do things like that. So I think I think that's the when you weigh it all out, that's my strength and weaknesses there. Just that that being naive and a little green, and protecting that character and working that character and finding myself and pushing that character, not trying to you know, maybe do some stuff that it's fun to do. It's awesome, but you need to really put a foothold in on who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and really push that a little bit more. So yeah.
Yeah. For out of all the companies you have worked and wrestled for, which one would you say has been like your all-time favorite that you got to work for?
It's a mix because I was with WCW at their height,
Mm-hmm.
with the NWO and through the Monday Night Wars. I was there, right at I started not too long after NWO got going. And I mean, it was huge. It was unbelievable. Every place we went was sold out. I think Nitro was number one on cable TV, and like Thunder was like fourth or fifth somewhere on TV. And so it was and NWO obviously was just so hot. But as far as structure, organization, things like that, they were just not. It was bad. WWF was, again, when I left WCW was on that shit was sinking really quick, and WWF was right at that stride of the Attitude Era, and Rock was becoming his own and really getting into the whole attitude and persona of the Rock, and obviously with Austin and Taker and Triple H. I mean, it was hot. DX. So it's like I got the best of both of those companies. So it's hard to say. If I had to pinpoint one, I'd say WWF over the fact that it was just so much more professional in terms of WCW, I have to sometimes beg to get a flight changed.
Oh, wow.
It's like, oh, well, we got you booked into here. And I'm like, well, I understand, but something came up, and can I just fly into Savannah, Georgia instead of Atlanta? And it was like sometimes pulling teeth. And with WWF, it was like, got you taken care of. I mean, It was never any issue with them, and they just did a lot more in terms of character development, and trying to find out who you are, what you're about, what your strengths and weaknesses are, what your personality is about, to try to build a character and create a character for you. WCW was just like, it was like the Wild West almost. It was great because the money was really good, and you could just go in and basically ask for a raise or something, and you could get it. And obviously their pay structure was a lot different than WWF, because you got a guaranteed amount of money regardless of how many days a year you worked. And WWF was like, you got a downside guarantee, but the more you worked there, the more you had potential to make.
Right. I mean, who wouldn't want to raise?
Yeah. I mean, it was, for me, that was my thing, because I was like, I've been training, and they were paying me to train. And then when I started on the road, I was getting the same amount of money. And I think it was Billy Kidman goes, man, you need to go talk to him, man. Like, I didn't even think about it. I was just like, oh, I'm doing what I want to do. I'm on the road. I'm wrestling. And I wasn't taking into account, now I got, rental car expenses, hotel expenses, food expenses. And we were on the road. I mean, we were on the road a lot, because we were doing every TV, every pay-per-view. I was doing a good bit of house shows as well. So, I was gone a lot, and I just really didn't think about it financially. And Kidman, I think it was Billy Kidman, he goes, man, you should go ask for money. I was like, you think so? And he goes, yeah, just, talk to Eric. And I talked to Eric at like a Nitro, and he said, well, come into the offices next week or something like that. And went in and sat down and said, told him, presented my situation. And, he said, well, here you go. This is what I'll give you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
What about out of all the names you have gone under, which one did you like the most? Sick Boy, Scott Vick, or the one time only Lance Ringo?
Well, Lance Ringo's at the bottom. Because that was just so fly by the seat of your pants kind of thing. I had no idea I was working that show until like the Sunday before Nitro. It was like 9 o'clock that night. I had no idea I was even working. I hadn't done anything. I didn't have a name. I didn't even have wrestling boots. Luckily, I had trunks, but that was it because I just started getting that stuff made up, and because I hadn't been working any shows. I just been working matches with Chris and those guys at Power Plant. So yeah, that's kind of I would say that would be the third spot. And then my name, Scott Vick, would have to be the second, and then Sick Boy would have to be number one, just because that was my end.
Yeah.
That was my initial platform.
For sure. Yeah, that's what most people know you as, from your time.
Yeah, I didn't do. I mean, my gosh, when I went with Scott Vick, it was just I had done it was just there was no TV with that. It was just dark matches.
Wow. Yeah. And also you were part of a bigger stable as Sick Boy, so.
Right.
What was your reaction to getting asked to wrestle for WCW and WWF, like the first time you got asked?
Well, WCW, like I said, I had gone through Michael Capetta, and once football was over for me, I made the call, and they had me come to Atlanta. He wasn't with the company anymore, but they had me come to Atlanta anyways, and do a workout, and then they're like, yeah, we want to sign you. And it was pretty cool, obviously, but they were really dragging their feet because this was '96, the summer '96, and the Olympics were in Atlanta at the time, and they had moved their base of operation to Orlando for the summer. So they just kept dragging their feet, and even when they came back, they just were not really doing anything. I think they're just trying to. I don't know what they're doing, but they weren't doing anything as far as I was concerned. And I want to say one of the coolest reaction was I was rooming with Matt Weesey, who was Luther Reigns' Horseshoe.
Oh, yeah.
He was Horseshoe in WCW and Luther Reigns in WWF. We were rooming together, and he was friends with Jack Doan, a ref for WWF. And he was like, "You want to go down to Daytona and let's go down. They got a show. Let's go hang out with Jack." And so we went down there. We were in the back, and Vince came up to us and asked who we were, and we said, friends with Jack, and he said, you guys wrestle, and we're like, yeah, absolutely, we're training at the power plant. He's like, are you under contract? And we're like, no. And he goes, why don't you put a match together, send a video up. I want to say that was probably my biggest reaction, just because
Right.
WCW kind of been dragging their feet, and so that was really like, wow, okay, this is really cool. And so yeah, we went back to Atlanta, and we filmed a match at the power plant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with the help of all those guys I mentioned before, like Chris Kanyon, Brian Clark, Ray Lloyd, Billy Kidman. We set up a little tripod camera there, and we actually filmed it right there in the power plant and sent that match to Vince. And I don't know the time frame. A few weeks, I think, went by, maybe only a week, and I think he contacted us and said, "Hey, I want to fly up to New York." And so Matt and myself flew up to New York, met with Bruce Pritchard, and they said, "We want to sign you." And that I think that was to answer your question, that's where I was really like, okay, now this is real.
Mm-hmm.
It's like reality. It's like really, really set in at that time. Whereas WCW was great. We were down there training, but they kept just talking and nothing was really happening. And now somebody, saying, "Hey, we want to sign you guys." And so Matt and I, on the flight back that night, we're like, "Yeah, let's do this. I feel like this is the place to be." And he agreed. And we were gung ho on WWF. But yeah, that was probably the first real wow, okay.
Yeah.
Super excitement.
For sure. Definitely only a week, not that long. I mean, basically right away after your guys' match that you put in. I mean, that was pretty quick too.
Yeah.
Who was one wrestler or a few that you never got to get into the ring with that you wish you could have?
Oh man, how much time do you have? Man, there's a lot. Obviously, Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard. I think obviously Kurt Hennig. Those are guys. I think right off the top of my head, that are from childhood. And then you get more modern. It's like I would have loved to have done some stuff with Jericho. I think we could have done some really cool stuff. But yeah, I think the top of the list, and that would almost be. I'm sure it's a lot of guys top of the list would be a Flair.
Oh yeah, definitely. Did you ever get to work Hulk Hogan or work backstage with him at all or anything?
No, I never worked him in a match. Obviously backstage, saw him. For the year and a half, 2 years I was with WCW, saw him all the time backstage. Right. But yeah, no, our interaction was pretty much that. Hey, how are you?
Right.
He was off doing his NWO stuff, and it was pretty limited interaction. But he was always polite, nice, and I know one time my younger brother came with me to a show, and he was really took time to talk to him and was really nice and things like that. But other than that, that's about the only real. I mean, that's the extent of the Hulk interaction that I had.
Yeah. I mean, he was probably super busy at that time, like you said, with the NWO and stuff. So,
yeah, I was just this green young kid just coming up, and I wasn't even really a bleep on the radar.
Right. How did a lot of the wrestlers and workers treat you backstage at either company?
WCW, when I first got there, I had a lot of heat with guys. Kind of unbeknownst to me at the time. I got smart up from Scott Norton. I traveled with Scott Norton. We were friends. And so I traveled with Scott, and I had no idea I had heat with Lex Luger, Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, Sting. Yeah. A lot of guys were going to Scott, like, just couldn't figure it out. Like, who's this young? Like, I just showed up out of nowhere and in a spot, and as young as I was. And I mean, I could work, so it was like, who is this guy? I mean, it's crazy, but this is Scott Norton told me. He goes, yeah, these guys were coming up going, who is this kid? Has he got like connections? Does he have money? How do why are you traveling with this young guy? And he's like, hey, he's a good guy. We're friends. Right. Like it wasn't anything. They thought there was some other ulterior motive or something for him to be. And it was like, no, he's just, and same thing with Brian Adams, because I travel with Brian Adams. Mm-hmm. A good bit too in WCW, and they all were like really stunned that I was like, traveling with these vets. And so, yeah, other than that, like and not that those guys, Steiner, Sting, Bagwell, Luger did anything or said anything. Because like I said, I really had no idea until it was, told to me that I had some heat, and I was like, for what? I'm quiet. I'm kind of a lone wolf, but it was almost like out of just respect. I didn't want to bug anybody. And like I said, that kind of goes into that naivety and being green. And, I'd go up and say hey to everybody, and but just kind of kept to myself, came in. I was like, I just want to work. I want to focus on, and, I'm going through all this for the first time. It's like just being thrust in front of TV tapings. And you're like, I've had no time to, a lot of guys have had time to develop their characters and their work style through territories or working for other companies. I didn't have that. It was literally like out of the power plant, right into TV tapings, right into the live tapings. And I'm having to figure things out as I'm going along to a certain degree. So, other than those guys, everybody else, as far as I knew, I got along with everybody there. And then eventually that straightened itself out. Mm-hmm. And, ended up traveling with Lex, and that kind of balanced that deal out with all those guys. And then WWF, when I went up there, I never had any issues with anybody. I mean, everybody it was like just treated me well and just kind of fit in right into the groove. And the atmosphere in WWF was a lot better than WCW. It felt more of a cohesive locker room than WCW did.
You're right. If a movie was made about your career, who would you want to play you?
Jeez. Man. You're going to trip me up on that. God, I don't know. I don't know if first of all, I don't know if there'd be I don't know if my life was fascinating enough to have a movie made about it. But if it was, and it was there, I mean, it had to be Brad Pitt.
Okay.
I'm a mark for Brad Pitt, so I'm gonna go with Brad Pitt.
Definitely. If you could have any band or singer play your theme song, who would you want that to be?
Oh man, another star. I could go all kind of which ways. No, if I got it's just one. Just like one band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, that's rough. Think I go Pantera.
Ooh, okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Which
Well, I'm like a
wrestler
big
has
musical freak, so I'm like I could have sat here
right?
going Iron Maiden, Motorhead. I mean,
Right. Yeah, I'm a big Kiss fan.
me too. Well, my that's what drew me into music.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, Kiss. Yeah, that was the first album I got at Christmas was Destroyer.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I have a big collection of Kiss stuff up on my wall up there.
All right, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I love them. I just don't think entrance music like, I don't know. I get to Pantera just because I love them, but I don't know if anybody used. I don't know, Well, just that style they had was so cool, and I think they could do a lot of cool stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, Kiss for the entrance, no, but riding down the road in my car, oh yeah.
Right.
Give me some Deuce and Strutter and Black Diamond. Like I'm Kiss like mid 70s to late 70s,
Oh, for sure.
where they're really, really, to me, really, really good.
Definitely. Which wrestler has given you the best advice and or compliment?
Probably best compliment is when I worked Chris Benoit on Monday Night Nitro. After the match, he told Eric Bischoff and Arn was the agent on the match. When we were done, said, "I'll work this kid anytime, anywhere."
Oh,
That,
nice.
that that was probably the biggest comment from a wrestler that I got. Advice, there's a couple. I don't know though. I didn't get a lot other than I know Steve Regal when I did the Lance Ringo character. Like I said, I didn't have any boots, so I had to wear my like amateur black wrestling shoes, and it always sticks. This sticks in my mind because it was so Regal. He just said, like, great match. He goes, but if you're going to be professional, you need to have boots.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't really your fault either, since they called you like last minute.
No, I don't harbor. I don't hold on to that at all. Because like I said, I had no idea, and it was like 9 o'clock
Uh-huh.
on a Sunday night, and like I said, I just gotten tights done, and you know, I was just getting into finding out who made boots and things like that, and I still hadn't figured out, hey, what kind of style of boots do I want? All these things are important, in terms of your character and where you want to go. So, uh, like I said, I had no character development for me whatsoever because it wasn't like, hey, in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're going to be on Monday Night Nitro working Page. And it wasn't anything down at the power plant where they were working with you on developing a character and setting something up. So, hey, when your number gets called, you're ready to go. It was
Mhm.
like I hadn't been doing anything. I hadn't heard anything from anybody. So yeah, I don't, but still, I find that just funny because Regal's sense of humor and the way he kind of talks sometimes, he was just very matter of factly about it. And like, and of course I'm not going to, go, hey, I had no idea, man. I was like not prepared for this. I didn't have any booze. I was like, yes, sir, I will do that.
Yeah. Are there any interesting or funny, cool on the road travel stories that you could tell? And you mentioned some of your travel buddies like Brian Clark and some others. So, is there any stories that you could tell?
Yeah. I'll I've got a lot, but I'll kind of hit some of the ones that stick out the most right now. To me, we were in we're in Orlando doing TV tapings at Disney, and when you go there, we do, I don't know, something like 4 or 5 shows in the morning and 4 or 5 shows in the afternoon. And when you got there, if you weren't on the if you weren't booked to work a match, you could leave. So I was traveling. We had all gone down together or met there in Orlando with Scott Norton and Brian Clark, and our wives had come down with us and stuff. So everybody's kind of like hanging out, and so we get to MGM Studios, and I'm the only one on the list to work a match that day. So at 9:30 in the morning, they leave and go back to the hotel. Well, I didn't get back to the hotel till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And they were all, when I got there, they were all down at the pool, and everybody had been having a good time and stuff. And it was about that time, right when I got there, everybody left to go get ready to go out for the night, except for Scott. Scott Norton was still in the pool with a drink in his hand. And he was sitting there, and it was like, he was even like swaying in the water. Cause I mean, they started drinking at 10 of them, as soon as they got back. So he's kind of sitting there swaying in the pool. And I sat down in a chair, and he got up and he walked out to the pool, and came up, and they had the big wide steps that were like lengthy long and like went up, like this. And he he came up out of the pool, and he hit that top step, and his feet shot out from underneath him, and he shampooed with his arms back behind him up in the air, his feet up in the air, on his stomach sliding. Like on the pool, like this the surface there, not on the water, and he just slid to like the fence. I mean, he just took off like a rocket, just slid, and he got up real cool. Like, I was just sitting there, I wasn't laughing, I was just holding this in, like, oh my God, did I just like see this? Mm-hmm. And his drink went flying, spilled out. So he went over, and they had a pitcher of whatever they were drinking there, and he poured another pitcher and filled his cup up, grabbed a cigarette, lit it up, and he looked at me, he goes, "Scotty, watch that step. It's really slippery." And walked over and sat in a chair, and the chair exploded from underneath him. It was just those old plastic chairs.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It wasn't like iron or steel chairs, or it was just like those old plastic chairs. And he sat in it. And I mean, Scott was probably close to 300 pounds or whatever, and that chair just exploded, and the legs just went flying, and he just hit butt first, feet straight out, and was sitting there holding his drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And he never looked at me. He just looked straight forward. And first he took a big drink. He just housed the drink that he had just fixed, threw the cup away, did this huge drag on the cigarette where it just boiled down all the way to nothing. And he looks over and he goes, "Scotty, it's just not my day."
Wow.
Yeah, that was that's probably one of the funniest. I mean, you couldn't write. I mean, that's something you had to write in a movie.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, it was just so funny, him sliding on the surface there and shampooing out, and then getting right up in the chair, busting out from underneath him. I mean, it was just classic. And then another one was Scott. We were driving. We were late running somewhere to a town, and it was Scott Norton and Ron Reese was in the car. And, you know, it was one of those things where we've been on the road for a day, you know, for quite a while. So everybody's kind of tired and sick of everybody. And of course we were late, and it was like everybody was quiet sitting in the car. And Scott was like, you know, hey, Ron, watch out for any police, because we were going like 120 down the interstate to get to where we needed to without being late. And we've been, I don't know, driving for like an hour and just, I mean, like smoking down the interstate. And nobody said a word. Everybody's just kind of in their own mind, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Ron just goes, "Copper, copper, Crime Stopper." I'm trying to imitate his voice. He had a high-pitched voice, and he goes, and everybody's kind of quiet, and he goes, and nobody really reacted. I don't think anybody knew what to do, and he was just like, "Oh, dude, copper, copper, Crime Stopper." And it's like, I think Norm was like, "What, Ron, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "It's a cop, dude, slow down." And somehow after, we were supposed to just know that the copper Crime Stopper was, hey man, there's, you know, slow down.
Right. Wow. Those are great stories. What about, are there like any ribs that anyone has played on you during your time in WWF or WCW that you are willing to share? Or if there's none that happened to you, is there any that you took part of on somebody else, or have you witnessed any?
What I mean, there was some little things, nothing really big. I think they were really getting out of that at that time. There wasn't a lot of that. It's kind of phasing out of a lot of the rib stuff, at least with me. I never really had anything. The only thing I do know, I'd mentioned something when we were on house shows that Rick Steiner had done, and I had gotten to Monday Nitro that morning at the building, and I think Raven and Perry and a couple of guys asked how the house shows went. I was like, yeah, it was great, you know, but Steiner did this. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he had done something, and I said, oh, Steiner did this, and then about a couple hours later, Rave came up to me and was like, hey, Rick Steiner's really hot, man. It's like he's looking for you. Like you don't talk about what goes on the road. Like you don't say anything. You know, you keep your mouth shut. He's really hot. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, man, are you kidding me? Like I'm gonna have to fight this dude. Like I don't want to have to do this, because I know, you know, like I'm not gonna. This is not gonna turn out well for me. But I'm not gonna back down from him. But I don't want to have to do it. And so for like 3 or 4 hours, I was really sweating it. And then I think I was sitting at catering, and I just felt this arm come around my neck and into my throat, and then this voice, and it was Rick, and yeah, it was a big rib. I know it's nothing fascinating, but that's really the only thing. Like I didn't have any of the good rib stories happen to me, or I wasn't a part of any. Nobody really, there was nobody really doing that at that time. Everybody was just kind of doing their own thing, and going and doing, you know, different stuff, and like I said, I think a lot of that stuff, as far as I knew, was kind of phasing out at the time.
Yeah, definitely. But you also got to wrestle Rick Steiner, and I think one of your last matches for a title too. What was that like, getting to wrestle your last match for the championship?
I mean, all you could say is Steiner line. That's why, because I wrestled both Scott and Rick before I left WCW, and I was just like, I just want the Steiner line, like, you know. I don't care what we do. I just want the Steiner line. So yeah, I mean, it was awesome. Obviously, you know, wrestling some of those guys, you know, that you grew up watching. was huge. Like me and Kidman worked Sting and Lex Luger at the Georgia Dome. When Goldberg beat Hogan for the title.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which that, I mean, it's not a road story, but it is an interesting story. Earlier in the day, they were like, hey, because we went on right, I think it was, we were at the end of the night. So it was like, I think the last match before Hogan and Goldberg, or the third match before them. And because they had just started the Wolfpack stuff. And they were wanting to do, like, I think Lex and Sting and like tags or something. And I remember them getting us together and go, hey, you got like 12 minutes with Sting and Lex. And it was me and Billy Kidman. And it was like, hey, make them look good, do your stuff, you know. And we were super stoked about it because it's like, man, we got like 12. I think it might have even been like 13, 14 minutes, somewhere in there. It was a good chunk of time for TV. And so as the day went on, it started shortening that time. You know, that 12, 13, 14 got to like 10, then it got to like 8. And so as we're walking out, and this is live TV, we've got this match, and as we're walking down the entrance, the camera guys are going, go to the ring, hit the ring right now. They're telling you go. And I'm like, well, the whole wolf pack is in there.
Right.
I'm not running in, and I was telling Kidman and I were talking. I'm like, I'm not running in there, dude. And he's like, oh, hell no. I'm like, because if we run in there, they're going to just, you know, they're going to have no option except to, you know, jump us. And I'm like, as soon as they get out of the ring, we'll run in. And so we really slowed the entrance in, and we're walking slow, and they kept going, go, you need to go. And I'm like, tell them to get out of the ring. It's not our thing. I'm not going to run down there. And so they're like, we told them, we said, well, we'll just go right into the finish. Go right into the finish. And as soon as they cleared the ring, we ran in. It was like, I took a shot from Sting, a shot from Lex. I think he shot me into the turnbuckle, then shot Kidman in to me as I was in the turnbuckle, and then Sting splashed us. And Kidman staggered out and took Sting's finish, and I staggered out and took Lex's finish. And that was the match.
Wow.
Yeah, that was one of the craziest matches how it went down. It was crazy. And it was a bummer because I was like, man, they're going to give us time. This would have been awesome to have worked them. And it could have been another like kind of moment for me where it was like, I felt like when I worked Benoit on that match with him on Nitro, I felt like was I at the time thought it was going to be a pivotal point in my career in a big match. And I thought, okay, here's another one that's going to be a big, you know, if we can go out and work with these guys, these are top main event guys, and we go out and have a good match with them, you know, this could be a springboard to further things. And then it got shortened to that. And I was like, you know, it was thrilling. It was awesome. But at the same time, it's like, it was a big bummer too.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been great if you had more time with them and just made something out of the match instead of just getting squashed.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get approached to be part of the flock, and how did that all come to intuition and just becoming a faction?
That was all through Chris Kanyon. He was good friends with DDP, and DDP was friends with Raven. And when Rave got signed, you know, Rave was like looking for new guys that hadn't been retreaded, gone through different, you know, gimmicks and stuff like that. He wanted fresh faces. And Kanyon pushed me for that to get in, you know, was like, hey, you need to come down and take a look at this guy. So Rave came down to the power plant, watched me work, and that's how the flock came about for me. They were like, Rafe was like, yeah, I want him, and it just has, and then it just needed to get approved through the higher ups, and which was Eric Bischoff, and it did, and that's how I got into the flock.
Nice. Did you like that opportunity that they gave you of doing that, and did you like that whole thing, doing that with them?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it was a platform, and I'm like, there have been guys that have been working for, years and years and years and hadn't gotten a spot like that. So,
for sure.
I was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is, this is just the platform to be able to get out there and show what I can do, and to a lot of degree, it worked because I heard through the Hardy Boys, who were friends with Lodi, that Jim Ross really liked my work, thought I was a good worker. And so I already had the connection with Bruce. And so when we didn't sign with WWF and we decided to go to WCW, he said, hey, look, whenever you're, go there, learn as much as you can, you'll be back here. So, and then Terry Taylor, who was an agent in WCW, had left and gone to WWF. And so I was like, had reached out to Terry and said, hey, if I'm not with WCW, would I have a place there? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the flock was a great springboard for me on a lot of different levels.
Definitely. Out of all the storylines and segments that you have done with the flock, is there one that stands out to you a lot that you liked doing?
Man, they were all good because we had top. I mean, we were pretty. We weren't at the top main event, but we were there. We had a great run with Goldberg, with Benoit, with DDP. Those were probably the biggest, runs that we had. So you can't get too much higher than that. I mean, we're right there. I don't know if there's any one in particular that stood out more than the other. I love the Benoit part because I got to work some house shows with him and do some things like that. And I loved his work, and doing the stuff with Paige was good because we were familiar, like I said, with each other and working, and it made for an interesting time. So yeah, it'd have to be all those, and Goldberg. I mean, my gosh, he was just so over. It was ridiculous.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was really big in that company at that time.
Yeah, I mean, we had that whole, he had to make his way through the flock, to get to Raven, which I thought was a pretty cool, aspect to that whole storyline.
For sure. How did it feel having to leave the flock after the Saturn defeating Raven and won the Freedom of the Flock thing?
Kind of empty in terms of just, I mean, I was excited because, okay, I'm going to have the opportunity to split off and kind of branch and do something and kind of find my own identity. But at the same time, it was like I just felt kind of on an island because I got no real guidance, no real help with anything. It was like, hey, flock's going to split and you're going to be off TV for like 90 days. Come up with something. Yeah. And like that's what I said earlier, where there was no guidance with them, and that was one of the biggest differences between the companies with WWF and WCW. WWF did a lot more in terms of like, in setting something up for you, having an idea for you to go to, and maybe there's negatives and positives for both. Like I love the fact that WCW, gave you that ability to freelance a bit. But it's almost like they gave too much. And then WWF, sometimes they, you really didn't have as much freelance as it was here. We're putting you in this gimmick, do it whether you like it or not. So there were positive aspects of both. But with WCW there, I was just like, okay, I don't know if this, I created a character and presented it to them, and they did nothing with it. So it just, I felt like, I'm just on my own on this. And it was like I said, just kind of empty feeling after that, just because I felt like I was just kind of just out there in the wind with no direction.
Yeah. And then after you were done with the flock, you and WCW didn't come to terms of doing another character like you just mentioned. If you don't mind sharing, what was that character that you wanted to rebrand yourself and do?
Yeah, I was going to take, like, when I talked about earlier, those aspects of having a guy that could do power moves and then high flying. I want to do like a new breed kind of athlete character. I mean, man, we hadn't even gotten to names or anything like that. I think they just still call me Sick Boy. Because I worked a few because I had the blonde hair, and actually was supposed to be silver because I want to do this silver. I was going to do everything in black and silver. And I had my hair, I had to bleach it out blonde and then put the silver in it. And the silver would only last for like 3 weeks. And so I kept doing this for, my gosh, the 90 days turned into like 6 months.
Wow.
And I would fly out to do vignettes, and I would get out there, and then they're like, oh, we don't have time to do it, or we're not doing it right now. And I would literally fly out there, turn around, fly back the very same day. I mean, it's just that disorganized. I started just getting really disgruntled with it all. But yeah, I wanted to do that character where I had this whole, the kind of the powerhouse guy with the high flying, that mixture of it, doing a new breed kind of 2000 aspect, because we were getting close, to the millennial. And I was like, I think this would be a perfect transition into the 2000s. And it just did not go anywhere. They did nothing with it.
Wow, that's upsetting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been great to see you do more in the company, definitely with a new persona, and see you do something else.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it would have. It's like me. I was just like, I just give it an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like give it a chance. I mean, some of the stuff that they put out there, I'm like, I couldn't understand it. Like I'm like, you can see as young as I was and as green as I was, I could work the way that I could work at that time. How they can't look at that and go, hey, let's put some time into this, and in another 2 or 3 years, you're really good. We're going to have something here. Because like I said, everything that I had to do on the fly.
Right.
I mean, my third live match on TV was that Benoit match. Because I'd done Lance Ringo, and then I did a Mark Starr on a Nitro Live, and then Benoit was my third match on live TV ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And you got released in 1999. Were you happy, or were you kind of upset?
Oh, completely happy. I was ready to walk away. I kind of started setting that stage to get released prior to, just because they weren't doing anything. I even went to Mike Tenay and I said, look, I'm going to work as kind of like just this lost guy, like the flock is split up, and I'm going to be, I just don't know what I'm going to do. I'm lost without Raven and the flock. I said, I'm not going to put much effort into these matches. I mean, I was going to work, but I wanted to be a work in terms of going, like, to me, it just kind of made sense. Hey, because everybody else kind of started going and trying to do better. and jump, springboard out of the flock and better themselves. And I'm like, oh, maybe somebody needs to be like, hey man, I'm lost without all these guys. I'm lost without the flock. And to me, I was thinking, okay, I can maybe protect myself a little bit with this, doing it this way, because in a couple of my matches, I mean, that I had, they were just like, don't get any offense, like let Rick Steiner eat you up, and these things. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna try to work this to my advantage the best that I possibly can. So I was like, going that direction, and a couple of times it's like, I'm ready to just walk out right now, because it was just I like I said, I knew that ship was sinking, and it was sinking fast, and I was like, I'm ready to get off of it. And yeah, so it was it was great knowing that I'm free and clear of them, and I can go on and pursue something with WWF.
Definitely. And then in October of 1999, you signed a booking contract with WWE. What was it like getting to do that? And what are some memories or stories from doing that? And what is basically like a booking contract consist of?
Yeah, as soon as I told them I was out, because I got out of my 90-day, because after you get your release, you can't work for anybody for 90 days. And I called up JJ Dillon and asked for a meeting, and went in and said, look, I want to get out of this like now. Please don't hold me to this. I've done everything I could do to try to push this character, to try to do things. And I just, I've got an opportunity somewhere else. And he let me out of it. So they let me out of the 90 days. And so I immediately called Terry Taylor and was like, hey, I'm good to go. And they instantly flew me up to Stanford, and I met with Jim Ross and Bruce Pritchard. And at the time, we didn't discuss anything about characters or any direction that they had for me. We just worked out a contract in Jim Ross's office. And I was like, here's what I've been getting paid. I said, I'm not looking for any more money. I said, I just want to maintain the life that I have now based on what I've been making for the last 3 years. And so we worked out a deal. And then it wasn't until like, I don't know how many months later, like probably 4 or 5 months later, because I don't think I worked. I think I worked a dart. The first thing I did with them, dart match wise, was I signed with them in October, and then I didn't work or do a dart match till March. And I want to say at that time they had started talking about they wanted to bring me in as to tag me with Val Venus. So that was the initial direction of any type of character or anything that they had for me there, and that fell through because they were just they were wanting to change direction with that because they were catching a lot of heat with that character.
Yeah, the Val Venus character that he was doing.
Yeah, they were losing sponsors over that.
Oh wow. Yeah,
because that's when they shifted him literally right out of that into right to censor.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
remember
right.
that with Stevie Richards and I think
Bull Buchanan,
Bull and Ivory and I think
Godfather was in there, right?
Godfather was in there too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that fizzled out for me because they were literally like, they were like, hey, we want you to show up like on Raw with a bunch of girls ringside, and you're going to be like his understudy that ran him out of porn. And now you followed him into wrestling. You're going to tag together, and then you're going to stab him in the back and then go your separate ways. That's what was told to me.
Wow.
And then they're like, yeah, we got to change direction on this. We're going to shift Sean and put him in this right to censor. And so it just, that fell through. But that was the initial into WWF, and I was like, okay, that will be cool. Like and say I like that because it's like I knew I had a little bit of time, and it's like that will be a that'd be a good fit. I can work with that.
Of course, yeah. And then there was also supposedly a storyline that you were supposed to do with Kane and Triple H, but it never happened. What was that supposed to consist of?
I was supposed to be the brother of Katie Vick.
Wow. Really?
Unbeknownst to me, because I at that time had I had been doing like a year and a half prior to that, on and off with WWF, and I had gotten to a point where I hadn't heard from them in, I don't know, 8-10 months, like not a word. And I'm at home watching, and I'm seeing this storyline and with Katie Vick, and I'm going, why in the hell are they using my name with this storyline? And it's a horrible storyline. And I'm like, it's just baffling to me. And I don't know the time frame on it, but it was a while because I didn't hear anything from it, but I was still like going, it's just weird. And it was again like kind of out of the blue, like the Lance Ringo thing. I'm on a Sunday night eating dinner out somewhere, and Howard Finkel calls me and wants me to be in Toronto for Monday Night Raw. And I'm like, I haven't heard from these guys. I'm not going to say no. I was out of shape. I hadn't been working out. I had a company that I had started, and I was, I had my first son had just been born. And so I was like focused on a bunch of different stuff. And at this time I was just kind of like, wrestling is such a bad taste in my mouth because there have been prior to that so many up and down things with, we're going to do this character with you. It gets there and it doesn't happen. It was always just kind of this up and down. And I was like, I was at the point where I was just like, I'm done with it all. Like, I'm just finished with it. I'm going to focus on my things that I need to do, for me outside of wrestling. And so I hadn't heard anything. And so they fly me up to Toronto, and that's where they told me, hey, you're the brother of Katie Vick. And I had to shoot a promo about the whole incident with Kane and my sister, that, he was this horrid monster in high school, and my sister was the only friend he had, and this, that, and the other. And, they had this bad accident, and my lines were, the real question is, did you take advantage of her while she was alive or dead? And at that time, they really didn't say anything to me other than, hey, you're going to interfere in a match with Kane and Hunter at a pay-per-view. I don't recall what pay-per-view it was. It was I think 3 weeks away, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I went to the next couple of Raws, and it was then they told me once again, we're going to end this storyline.
Oh my God.
After this pay-per-view. Wow. Yeah, we're not going to do it. So I, at that point, so of course now again, kind of done and kind of miffed with the whole thing, but it was only until about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I read an interview that Tommy Dreamer had done, and he was on the creative side during that time. And they had asked him about the Katie Vick, and they said, yeah, that's how they wanted to introduce Scott Vick and debut him with the Katie Vick storyline. And it was going to culminate with a match at WrestleMania with Hunter. And I'm like, Okay, let's look at this for a minute. A couple things. That would have been really good, pertinent information to know. Maybe when the storyline started.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Because I guarantee you, I could have had myself in shape, and ready to go. Because I did watch an interview with Bruce Pritchard where he had commented on the Katie Vick, because it's probably the most infamous storyline in wrestling.
Oh yeah.
And he had done an interview and said, well, we ended that storyline because Scott came up and did a match and he didn't look good, and Vince just didn't think that he could carry it. And I'm like, that's such BS, man. Like, don't make me the scapegoat on that storyline. First of all, I had no idea I was even involved in this thing. I hadn't heard from anybody in almost a year. I was pretty much out of the wrestling business. I hadn't wrestled in a year. The fact that storyline ended was not because I had a bad match or couldn't carry the load of working Hunter at WrestleMania or whatever they wanted to do. It was just like Val Venus. They were catching a lot of flack for that gimmick.
Yeah, so they were basically trying to put it on you as it was your fault.
I think Bruce was trying to, at least they scapegoated it on me somehow. And I saw that and it really pissed me off a bit, because Bruce was super cool with us, especially when me and Matt Weesey had looked at signing. He was great at going, you guys, here's our situation right now. And when we were wanting to sign, because we wanted to sign with WWF, but we didn't get the contracts in time, and WCW had offered us, and they were like, hey, you got 2 days to make your mind up. And we had called Bruce and told him, look, this is what we want to do. We want to sign with you, but we don't have these contracts. And WCW's offered us, and we've got until like Wednesday, and this was on a Monday, and somehow we didn't get those contracts until like I think Thursday from WWF. But Bruce was like, look, no hard feelings, guys. Your best, honestly, your best bet is to sign with WCW, work, learn as much as you can, and in 4 years you'll be here with us if this is where you want to be.
Right.
And I never had any issues with Bruce on the road and working and stuff. But when I heard that interview, I was just like, man, don't throw this on my back. I knew nothing about this. There, plenty of times I was in shape. I can't tell you how many times they came up with a storyline or a character to put me in, and it would go to Vince, and Vince would be like, no, I don't want to use him for that. I don't think that works for him. It was at least 4 or 5 characters or storylines that happened to me with. And then it just really went off the cliff when they bought WCW.
Crazy. Great story, but crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. I honestly didn't know that you were actually part of that storyline until just now. So
yeah, well, like I said, I didn't know I was part of that storyline up until like the very end of it.
Right.
Which is just it still baffles me that I'm like, that I'm looking at TV going, they're using my last name on this girl. Why my last name? Out of all the names you could use.
Yeah.
You want to use Vick. So yeah.
Wow. So you got to train in the WWE's developmental company OVW for a little bit. What was it like there for your time being, and did you ever get to wrestle there?
I actually never went to OVW.
Oh, you didn't?
No, like I said, I'd been doing dart matches and I dislocated my jaw.
Okay.
And I was out for like 8 weeks. And as I was getting held up from that, they were like, we want you to go to Memphis to MC, I think it was MCW, Memphis Championship Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
They had a developmental there, and they put me in a group as kind of the mouthpiece with Thrasher from the Headbangers.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And Kevin Furtig, who went on to be Kevin Thorne.
Okay, yeah.
In WWF. Yeah, we did this group called the Triad. And they're like, we want you to run this gimmick there. And again, didn't give a whole lot of what they wanted to do with it. It was almost really just kind of up to, I guess, me to kind of determine where this goes. And I'm like, I'm creative and I can come up with stuff, but I don't know, what they're looking for, what they want it to be. They didn't say, hey, we want you to be like XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of like, okay, we're this triad group. I've got, Thrasher, I got Kev, I got me. I really didn't know which way to go. The only direction I knew was they were going to introduce me as being like a baby face and a good guy, and I was going to be this guy that kind of comes in that disrupts the whole MCW and kind of turns it upside down, and we formed this group together. That's really all I knew. And it was just really kind of making it up as we went along with it. But yeah, I was there, to do that because like I said, I dislocated my jaw. So it was like, you need to go back there to get back in ring shape. And while you're there, hey, we want to have you put this group together. So yeah, it was at the MCW instead of OVW.
Okay, my bad about that.
No, it's not you. It's a lot of that's a lot of perception. I've read a lot of things where people are like, I did OVW, and I was like, I never worked one match in Ohio Valley.
Right. Later in your career, you got to reunite with Lodi at a company called WrestleForce. What was it like getting to reunite with a Flock member, and also not just reunite, but also win tag team titles with him in that company?
Oh, it was great. I mean, we had done some stuff before. Like I think we did a big a half Flock reunion at a company based out of Columbia, CWA. I think they were out of Orangeburg, and this is the first time all of us had been back together on a show, and it was with it was myself, Lodi, Rave, Scotty Riggs. I think Perry was there. I'm not sure, but it was like the pretty good bulk of the Flock was there. Actually, I don't think Perry was there. I think it was just me, Raven, Scotty, and Lodi. And that was one of the first. That's actually one of the first times I resurfaced on the indie scene after leaving WWF, and we did a couple things with them, and then Lodi and I started doing some WrestleForce stuff together. Like I was just kind of out of the scene, and Lodi and I were. He was another travel partner that I had. We traveled all the time together, and we were good friends, and are still to this day. And one of the few that I've maintained contact with, and he would always hit me up every now and then. Hey, you want to go do this indie show with me? And so we're doing that. So it's always cool to get back and kind of go through that and get on the road, travel to some of these shows, and work with guys again.
Most definitely. And then talking about a reunion, I see that we've got some of the members coming to WrestleCade, including you, Reese, and two others. Scotty Riggs, and then
Rave's going to be there. I think the only ones that I don't know. I know there was a question if Van Hammer was coming or not.
He's doing some appearances now, so who knows?
Yeah, I can't remember if he's gotten confirmed for that. But I know Kidman's not going to be there, and I don't think as of now, Horace isn't going to be there. But other than that, I think everybody else is going to be there.
Yeah, that'd be great if Horace was there. He doesn't really do many. He doesn't do really anything anymore. But yeah.
No, and we as a flock. I mean, the last time we all got together, I think it was it might have been WrestleCade, because we did one other. I want to say like 2010, 2011, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
We did one, and it was Reese, Raven, Perry, Riggs, myself, and Lodi.
Oh, nice.
And other than that, that's the only time we've all been together. That many guys from the flock together. So this will be like the second time, which will be pretty cool.
Yeah, that will be. I could see a lot of fans getting to enjoy that and maybe have a photo op with all of you.
Yeah.
So you are also included in some WCW video games. What did that moment feel like for you, getting to be in your first ever video game at that time?
It was like surreal, I think, in terms of just like, you're on a video game. I think the best part of it was getting that royalty checks from it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But I mean, it's cool. It was cool. I mean, you're sitting there and it's like you got, still to this day, I'll have some people come up and be like, "Oh my gosh," because I think that that what was it? It was on 64. What was the video game?
There was 3 video games that you were in. So on the 64.
Yeah, the first one that was big, it was the WCW. I think it was at Nitro. Was it Revenge? Right?
Yeah, there was that one, and then the other one too.
Yeah. Any of those, you'll have kids coming, "Oh, I played that, when I was a kid," and obviously it's flattering to see yourself on a video game.
For sure.
I think the coolest was they did something with South Park, and they sent there was a picture of like a few of us from the flock as South Park characters. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Could we be seeing you return to the wrestling ring anytime soon?
For sure. Yeah. I'm I had been out of the spotlight, the wrestling spotlight for many years, and so kind of gotten back into it here at the end, and looking at gonna maybe make another little run here and get a little more serious with it, and get back in shape, and get back in the ring, and have some more matches before. I'm sitting here at 52, and I'm like, you only have so much time left, and as long as I can still move well, which I can do stuff. I'm like, I want to get some more work in and do some things. So, yeah, I'm that's definitely the plans.
Awesome. It'd be great to see you back in the ring. So, and then from 2003 to 2004, you had a tryout for NFL and also CFL. What was it? Could you share that story? And what was the reason that you didn't make it to the NFL?
The initial reason was I got injured in college. I had dislocated my knee, and I had torn my ACL, MCL, PCL, and LCL, and had like a hairline fracture in my patella tendon, or my patella, the bone, and that kind of, I'd worked out for some teams right after that because that was still my dream. But then I went the wrestling route and did the wrestling. And when wrestling kind of started come to the end, I had a lot of friends that had played in the NFL, and they're like, "Man, you're still in really good shape. Can you run?" And how are you, with that? And I'm like, I don't know. Let's go out and try it. So I went out and ran a 40 and ran a really good time. And they're like, you should work out for some teams. So I was like, I'm still young enough. If I can, I'm looking at numbers that they're doing in the combine for people, for guys at my position, and I'm at the average. I was above the average on a lot of the stuff, from shuttle runs to the 220 bench test and 40-yard dash and vertical jump, all the tests that they do. So I was like, let's do this. So I got an agent and we started pushing it, and I worked out for teams and had some interest, and it had gotten to the point enough where I did well enough where they gave me a physical, and when I took the physical, they're just like, man, you got so much trauma. I mean, I think at the time I was like 31. So I mean, I was up there in age for the NFL. But I still went in there, and like I said, tested really well, and that caught the attention of teams, and did the physical, and they were just like, you got trauma up and down your spine, there's scar tissue here, your knee and that. And they're like, your numbers are really great, everything looks good, but you at your age, it's just too much of a risk medical. Like, you just, are not going to be there. So that ended that for me. But I was like, it was another part of my chapter in my life that I was like, this is my ultimate dream. And, maybe I'll go that route and see what happens. And unfortunately, it just, again, wasn't in the cards.
Right. What is it like getting to be a fitness coach for others and help people get in shape? And what made you want to start doing that and run your own fitness company?
Never wanted to do it. Like, as far as like one-on-one training, personal training, never really wanted to do it. But as I was coming towards the end with wrestling, I was like, I want to start I want to have a fallback. I want to have something to transition out of the business. And I was like, I've always been into fitness, always been about that. So I was like, it's the thing I know the best. So might as well go in that direction. And I just saw an opportunity where I was at to really do something different than what anybody else is doing. And I initially just started doing apartment complexes, where my company would come in and provide apartment complexes with like one-on-one personal training, or we would do water aerobics, kickboxing, Pilates, yoga, and we would hire them, or they would hire my company, and it was an amenity for the residents, and the apartment complexes would pay us. So I looked at that as like, if you do one-on-one training, you can only train so many people during the day. But if I hire people and put them in here, I can have 200 clients and just hire people. And that was more of a draw for me. I knew the business. I mean, not the business, but I mean, I knew fitness, and I loved going in and talking about it, talking about how to train, how to eat, and do things like that. And I love the business part of, hey, setting up the proposals and going and trying to acquire these accounts. And that was the real draw for me at the time. I didn't do any real personal training at all. I would just go in and get the accounts and then hire people to do all the fitness part of it. And we went from apartment complexes to doing corporate training, to having building or designing gyms for people's homes, things like that. And then it was only later that I got into the one-on-one personal training and like the fitness coach aspect of it, that I really was like, wow, this is really awesome, because I started working more with people that had injuries and disabilities. And just it's almost like more rehab, honestly. And it just taking somebody that couldn't paint a room in their house because they had a frozen shoulder, to get them to get mobility and functional, movement in their shoulder, to be able to just be so happy that they were to be able to paint a room. I was like, man, this is pretty cool. And that kind of started the whole personal training and fitness coach aspect of things for me.
Yeah, for sure. And then also you being a motivational speaker, where did that come from?
That's something I would like to even get into a little bit further, but that started in just when I was in Atlanta and wrestling. We had different things where we talked to elementary school, we talked to high schools, high school kids, and things like that. And I've got a pretty big story that just goes back, that's even deeper into just my background through high school football and some of the trials and tribulations that I went through to get to where I needed it to get to the college level. So that was really the premise for the speaking aspect of it. And like I said, that's something that I did more early on in my wrestling career than I have in the latter. I like to try to get back to that a little bit more. I've done a few things here and there, but not nearly as much as I'd want to.
Right. Also, back in the day, during your time in high school, you were named the National Prep Magazine's top 100 high school football players during your time in high school. What did that feel like, getting to actually be noticed on that high of a level?
It's a big thrill, because it's like all the hard work you put in, because I was just so dedicated from, I want to say, since I was like 14, 15 years old. I really started locking in on the football aspect of things. I transitioned like out of baseball and really started going, okay, football's where my bread's buttered. This is what I want to really do. And I really started getting into weights and training, and really started dedicating. Like, first it was like, at that age, I'm like, I want to go to our All-Star game, which in South Carolina, it's the Shrine Bowl, which pits the best in South Carolina versus the best in North Carolina. And, that was kind of my first goal. I was like, there were kids that were in high school when I was in middle school that were going to the Shrine Bowl, and I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to go and play in this All-Star game. I want to be the best that I can at my school. I want to be the best that I can in football. And so just I dedicated. I mean, I probably dedicated too much time to it. It took away from some of my school stuff that I should have been dedicating as much or not more time to. And so when you it really is that blood, sweat, and tears. It's like, nothing's handed to you. You have to put in that effort and that time. And it's like, in high school, I was friends with one of our coaches. He gave me the key to the gym, and I would go into the gym when the school was closed, and get in and go into the gym and work out. I was like, I went out and did stuff with friends, but my first priority was, I'm getting my workout in, I'm training. So to have those goals, and when you get up to that, to that level, and then you come in, I think it was like going into my senior year, where, they told me, hey, National Prep Magazine picked you as the top 100 player in the nation, and your, preseason All-American was, Parade magazine and all this stuff, and or Super Prep magazine. It was like, okay, this is really cool. It's paid off. It's not about the recognition. It's about the recognition in terms of, I busted my butt. I sacrificed a lot to get here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was a big thing in your career as a younger in high school.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. What was it like getting to share the ring with John Cena when he was known as the prototype?
I just looked at it as an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
for me. I mean, I didn't think anything about him. I'd seen him work. I'd seen a few matches he had done. He had done as as the prototype. Obviously, nobody had any idea he was going to go on to do what he did. For me personally, I just looked at it as, hey, opportunity to, maybe let's get another run, or let's get something going that should have gotten going years ago, as an opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Would you have rather joined DX, NWO, APA, or BWO?
Oh man. DX with APA right behind it.
Okay.
Because I liked and got along with John and Ron with APA, and I thought that was it was a phenomenal and awesome gimmick they were doing.
Oh yeah.
I think just NWO was just so saturated. If you went in there, I mean, look how many people they ended up with.
Oh yeah.
DX was a little more exclusive. I didn't have a ton of interaction with like Hunter, other than just in the back and whatnot. But X-Pac, I obviously knew him from WCW. We got along there. And because I was, I think, I can't remember if he had left and gotten to WWF, or I think maybe I'd gotten there right before he did, or maybe he'd gotten there before I did. I can't remember. It was pretty close. Because I was there before Jericho or the Radicals with Malenko and Saturn and Benoit and Guerrero and Eddie came up. So yeah, Shawn, X-Pac we were really good, and then I got along in the back with Billy Gunn and Road Dogg.
Oh yeah.
So I mean that to me, I think that would have been a really cool, because at that point when I was there, like Shawn Michaels was out of it. They were just at that point. It was Hunter, China, Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, and X-Pac, really.
Okay. Yeah.
I was with the company, but I hadn't started working yet. And I think when I got in, I think Shawn he had just left, or he had just left right after I got in.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, my memory's a little hazy on the exact time points of when that all happened, but I know, because I want to remember when I was up work, once I started working dart matches on the regular in March of with WWF. I don't remember Shawn being there with DX, and then it wasn't long after that DX, I think, split.
Yeah.
And I think Road Dogg and I think that's when Road Dogg and Billy Gunn went and did their tag team stuff, where it really took off.
New Age Outlaws, yeah.
Yeah, the New Age, and then Hunter was doing the game.
Yep. Yeah, they all broke apart and did their own thing after that.
Yeah.
What would you say has been your favorite venue you've gotten to work or wrestle at?
Man, there's so many good ones. Obviously, Madison Square Garden's at top of the list.
Oh, for sure.
Then probably just because it was so electric was the Georgia Dome when Kevin and I had that match with Lex and Sting and Hogan dropped the title to Goldberg. I mean, that place was just packed and was the atmosphere was just so electric. That, and then we did the Superdome, which was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was just, I remember looking at the ring and it looked like this little just speck, you know, and the Superdome was so big, they would golf cart us from the locker room to the entrance.
Wow.
Yeah, that was, and then you got your places like Cow Palace in San Francisco, which was huge just historically.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, never got to do like the Omni in Atlanta, you know, which would have been cool. But I would say another that stands out is we did the Palace in Detroit, because we did a house show there and it was sold out with like 16, 70,000 people there.
Wow. That's a good show out for that.
Yeah. Yeah. So really good. It was really good show. It's really easy to work and when you have crowds like that. I mean, for me, it was easier for me to work like that than in front of 20 people.
Yeah. I mean, a lot more crowd interaction and everything like that. And it's also louder within when you have more fans.
Yeah, and you know what? I never noticed the fan. Like, it wasn't like the 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. It doesn't bother me as much as if there's 100 people there. 100 people, it was more of I got more probably anxiety, or not anxiety, but more butterflies working in front of a smaller crowd than a big crowd.
Interesting. Have you ever got to work for Wisconsin?
I'm sorry, for who?
At a Wisconsin show.
Oh, yeah, I think we did. We did something, and I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you for the life of me where it was. But I know we did something. We did something in Wisconsin, because I don't know why I remember this, but I rode with Johnny Swinger.
Oh, okay.
And I think it was for like a I think it was like a Saturday night taping that we did. And I cannot tell you where in Wisconsin that was.
It might have been Milwaukee or Green Bay. That's where they usually did it.
Well, yeah. Well, I should say, yeah. I mean, well, with WCW, we didn't go. The WWF, we did Milwaukee.
Okay.
Because we would do that, and then Chicago.
Okay, yeah.
We would have one show like actually, you know what? Now it just jogged my memory. Me and Kidman worked DDP and Chris Benoit in a tag match in Milwaukee, and then went to Chicago to do Nitro. Yeah. So yeah, that does. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. The reason I asked that is because I'm in Wisconsin. And I just like to know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just there's been so many places, like some places you like that you definitely can remember, and others it's like, I know I went to Wisconsin, like, and I wasn't even thinking in big terms of like Milwaukee. It was almost like it was a given, but it wasn't like registering. And I was like, where in Wisconsin? But yeah, WCW, we didn't go there. I went multiple times with WWF there.
Right. Now, who would you put in your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
Man. It's tough. I think definitely you got to have Andre the Giant in there. I think you have to have Hulk in there just because it was such. I mean, with Andre, I mean, no one. I mean, there's never been and never will be. I don't think anybody like Andre.
Oh, no.
That alone puts him in there. I mean, he just everywhere he went was just everybody wanted to see him. It was. I don't think there's been anybody. I know there hasn't been anybody quite like that, even though you got Rock and the Austins and things like that. And then Hogan, just as pivotal as he was in the business at that time. I mean, there was nothing bigger. I mean, Vince and Hulk just changed the whole entire industry.
Oh,
So
yeah.
regardless of, because I know everybody's like, oh, you got to look at, who's a technical wrestler, who could talk on the mic, who couldn't, who had charisma, who didn't. I mean, you can go back and forth, and it's like, I think you could do a couple Mount Rushmores, but it's like if you look at I try to look at it in terms of like, okay, you got Andre, who's the one guy that nobody's ever going to be like ever, which I think has to be in there, and then you got Hogan, who transformed the business completely by just nobody had seen anything like him with his size, with the charisma. And believe it or not, I know Hulk would always kind of get grief about his work, but you go watch Hulk in Japan and early Hulk, dude could work.
Yep.
I mean, you go watch some of it, especially the Japan stuff. I mean, he could move, and you know what? Everybody's like, oh, well, he only had, he did this and he did. Well, that's all he needed to do in WWF. What are you going to fault him for that? Because, I mean, I wasn't a big Hulk guy. I like the guys that could work. Like I said, the Tullys and, Arn Anderson, Flair, Magnum TA, all these guys. But Hulk was the charisma guy. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, look like $1 million and charisma, $1 million and all that. And then if you get into modern times, God, man, it's such a it's like Austin and The Rock are right there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because each of them, I mean, I would probably give the edge to Austin, just in terms of because he popped and hit before Rock did, but then Rock took it to almost picked up where Austin left off and took it,
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. But then you can do a Bret Hart. I mean, Bret's got to be in there somewhere too. I'm like, can we add some faces on there?
Right. Yeah.
And then you can sit there and break it down by big men. And I'm going to go back to a guy that just fascinated me to no end was Bruiser Brody.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I mean, that charisma and that look and what he brought to the table was just, I mean, that was like, I still look at that now and I'm just like, still amazed by it. But yeah, I don't know, man. If I ever had to do the was it? It's 4. Have to be Andre, Hulk. Austin Rock with Jake the Snake right behind it, and I mean, I think I could make a thing for Rick Rude, and then you could Henning as far as certain things they did. It's everybody asks all those. I see those a lot where people put them up there, and it's really hard to narrow it down. Because
sure.
I mean, to me, I mean, Bret's up there really, really close. I mean, Bret Hart's work, I mean, obviously was just insane. And then, you go to like a Jake the Snake, and I mean, his psychology was off the charts. There's nobody that can top him psychology wise, really. And his work was, I mean, really good too. So it's like, but you got to think of the real game changers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think, the real, those game changers that are just there, or that probably maybe Austin, Rock, Hulk, and Andre.
For sure. Yeah, it's hard for everybody to do wrestling.
I think it's opinion, because everybody's got their guys that they, like I said, I was never an Ultimate Warrior fan. You're going to have people that want to put Warrior up there.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it a lot, but there probably be people that want to do that. But, I mean, my gosh, you could put Undertaker up there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like there's so many people that are right there, and it's like it's hard to kind of narrow that down because everybody brought a little something different, to the table. But I think you got to kind of put it in terms of like what were the most impactful, and who are the closest at having, a little bit of all those things. Like Austin. I mean, my gosh, his mic skills were off the chain. His work was solid and really, really good. Rock, the same thing. Now, I put Rock a little. Rock, I'll give Austin the edge in ring skill, in my opinion, over the Rock. The Rock's right there with him on the mic, and Rock's right there with the charisma and the influential aspect of things.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's a debate that could go on for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely. Agreed. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self something motivational towards being a wrestler or towards where you are now in life, what would that be?
In wrestling, in terms, it would be really learning the business, more, being more aware of your self-worth and your character, and building a character for yourself, and setting a standard, because people will view you that way, whether you realize it or not. If you work a certain way, they're going to perceive you that way. And just being a little more vocal and standing up for myself a little bit more. I think I would definitely look at changing that and having a little more backbone in terms of just, being more of a cheerleader for me and kind of looking out for me. And not trying to just be like, I think I still had that kind of mentality in football where it was like, hey, the best guy will play.
Right.
And that's not how the wrestling business always works.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, to start finishing off the interview, a couple more questions is, what is one thing you would tell your fans who have been supporting you throughout your whole career and still support you to this day?
Tell them in terms of,
like, wrestling fans.
Yeah, but like telling them what? Just what I have to say to them?
Oh yeah, for like supporting you and still keeping up with your work to this day after.
Oh yeah, no. I mean that's I mean, like I said, it's very flattering that when people come up and remember, because like I said, I didn't have a ton of TV time. My only TV time was with the flock, and there was no social media at the time, and I haven't been on social media until just within the last month. I never had a social media platform at all. I just stayed out of it. It wasn't something for me. I didn't want to go down that avenue. But it's very flattering, obviously, to have people come and go, I remember you did this, and I'll get letters from fans, and I'm always appreciative and try to always respond and send stuff back, and handwrite stuff to them, because it's like again, I'm not like Rock or somebody getting like 1 million something response. You can't respond to everybody. But Yeah, no, it's super flattering and obviously very appreciative of all the support. And when people come in and go, hey, you were really good. You did this. I feel like you should have done more. And I don't know why WWF didn't do more with you or WCW. And I'm like, yeah, it makes you feel like, a little justification maybe that it's just not me going, hey, and then you get your other side where it's like, oh, he's terrible or he was this or he was that. And and it's like, but you got to take the good with the bad. But with the good, it's like, yeah, super appreciative, especially when I was traveling all the time and people would come up to you and they're getting up at 5, 6 in the morning to go to airports and meet you at airports or
Oh, yeah.
they did that all the time and yeah, no, I mean that was awesome and it was much appreciated. Still
Definitely.
is.
Mm-hmm. Do you get fans recognizing you still to this day out in public?
Yeah, I mean not as much as I did, and I mean I'm in a small town now, and I mean I'm where I went to high school, so I know a lot of people, but yeah, I'll get I'll get some people that know, or if they don't, they're like if it's not wrestling, they think I played football.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then they're like, what do you do? And then it's like, you tell them, and sometimes they're like, oh my, like sometimes they're like, don't recognize, and they're like, oh my gosh, really? You were sick? And I'm like, yeah. Like I didn't even, yeah, you'll get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for the last and final question is, do you have any advice for me to become a wrestler?
Yeah. Don't. I'm just kidding. Yeah, get trained really, really well. Find somebody that knows what they're doing. Get somebody that can teach you properly the right way, especially with the basics. And then you get the basics, and then it's the intricacies of small little things that you don't think about. Like, guys will train people, and it's like, they'll teach guys how to lock up, or let's take it even more simplistic. Just you got to learn how to bump and things like that, and then you start locking up, and then you start grabbing headlocks and moves, and it's like, and then once you get all the basics down, then start really learning how to put a little flavor on it, because anybody can lock up. You got to kind of find your little niche and what you can do.
Right.
And that's the other thing. Don't try to, you can't be something you're not. Find what you do well and like stick with it, because I think, like I said, I think that was a downfall for me. Sometimes I tried to do stuff and it was like I was always athletic enough to do it, and I wanted to emulate it, and I'm like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have like tried to work like Terry Funk. That's really not my style. I need to find my own style, kind of carve my own path.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, find someone that's really good, teach you the basics, and then help you really develop and grow that. And then you got to take it from there to a certain degree in terms of finding your niche, and what you feel comfortable with, a character that's organic, that you it can kind of naturally flow.
Right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I thank you for taking your time out to do this interview. It was a pleasure to have you on here.
Hey, thanks. Pleasure to be here.
And is there anywhere that people can find you and follow you? You want to put those out? Your media?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm on I'm on Facebook, but it's under Scott Vick. And then on Instagram, I'm Scott Sick Boy Vick on Instagram.
Sounds good. All right. Thank you again, and I hope you have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks, man. You too.
All right. See ya.
All right, bud.